Hello, everyone. I hope you've been having a wonderful and valuable Almond conference this year. I'm Habin Daman, the Associate Director of Trade Marketing and Stewardship at the Almond Board of California, and I'd like to thank you for joining this session, Innovating with Almonds to Satisfy Today's Consumer. It is such an exciting time to witness innovation in the food and beverage landscape, particularly as consumer interest in sustainability factors into new product development and on-pack marketing. We're excited to welcome three speakers who will explore key trends in innovation and sustainability and offer examples of just how manufacturers are responding to new consumer demand. With us today, we have Luann Williams, Director of Innovation at Innova Market Insights, who serves as consultant to some of the world's largest food and beverage companies on product development, marketing strategies, trend analysis, and innovation. Then we have Emily Lafferty, who leads strategic sourcing at Simple Mills, and she fosters new ways to look at sourcing and differential innovation design to impact the way our food is grown. Sean Hauser-Fedor, Senior Director of Chocolate and Packaging Research and Development for the Hershey Company, leads chocolate confectionery new product, package design, and technology development. So we're excited to have this amazing lineup. We hope you stick around for the Q&A at the end of the session. And you can do that by going into the lounge and clicking on the session title. But if you have a question, please feel free to use the chat box and we will follow up with you via email. So without further ado, I'll hand things over to our first speaker. Luann, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Harbinder. So I'm now going to talk about some of the drivers that we see in almond innovation, and we're going to focus on snacking, but then also get some inspiration from other products as well. So I think the big topic this year, of course, is COVID and what's happening, and of course we all want to know how has it impacted the way consumers are buying food, what they think about food. So we did a survey in 12 countries. So the results that you see here are an average of these 12 countries. And we asked consumers, when you're buying foods and drinks during the current COVID situation, what factors have become more important? And you can see that health is up 30% over 2019, and more than half of consumers say that's number one. The environment is a huge winner. It's up from 9% to 33% of consumers now saying environmental aspects, and that can be environmental, social, or also ethical aspects. And indulgence is up from 18% to 23%. This is, I think, really, really interesting because last year, the top three choices were flavor and brand and cost. So now we see that consumers have a lot more things on their mind, which is not surprising. And I think the huge growth in the environmental aspects also has to do with this rush to safety and security. So we're talking a lot about our top 10 trends. We're talking about transparency triumphs. And I think that this layers into that consumers really are looking for reassurance. And we saw this during the last economic downturn in 2008, 2009, that there's this rush for safety and feeling secure. And now we see it also, but the external impact of what's happening with the pandemic is really important. A couple of other things that we see happening is, well, linked to the health, immunity is very much, it's going to be huge. We are getting a lot of calls about it already to work on projects, what's happening. This is a fantastic example from Dannon. You can see it's 100% plant-based dairy shot. It's their Actimel range, now available as a plant-based product. And you can see it contains vitamin B6 and vitamin D for normal functioning of the immune system. So watch out for this. You're going to see a lot more communication and products being launched that target immunity. And then back to the environmental aspect, the cereal that you see here, it's all about goodness. It's in a nice green package, but it also tells you that it's in the form of nutrition, but it also protects the environment through less water usage and inputs, so that it also takes care of our world, just like our mother's world. So you're going to see a lot more messaging, and that, as I mentioned, transparency it's our number one trend for this year. So there's going to be a lot of communication around health, the environment, and also indulgence. And I have more examples in my slides today. So if we look at products that contain almonds, and we look at what's driving that. So almonds really fit into so many different types of products and also different types of positioning. So of course, it's a plant. So almonds go really well into any kind of plant-based product like the one that I showed you from Dannon. They also combine really well with other health ingredients. Probiotics is one example. And again, that takes us over into the health benefits. So this is a huge trend. One thing that's also happening this year is a lot more products with active health. So for a long time, we've been talking about clean label and making sure that there's very simple ingredients consumers can understand. But what we see now is that there is now a huge increase and a lot of interest in active health. And we differentiate that from the passive health, which is more clean label. Active health is adding in those ingredients that bring extra nutrition, for example. So the difference between active health today and what we saw with active health 25 years ago when it was emerging is that consumers are also looking for more natural sources of inherent goodness that contribute to those active health benefits. So almonds have a lot of great nutrients in them, so that ties also really well into these products that are inherently healthful. Premium and indulgence, we saw that's also of increased interest for consumers. So affordable premium is definitely a big trend. So we're looking out for new products that offer interesting texture or interesting flavor. Almonds also work well with just about every type of flavor, salty, spicy, sweet. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And then mindful consumption. And this has everything to do with making sure that consumers also feel good about what they eat. And that's those environmental concerns that we were just talking about. It can be human welfare, animal welfare, the environment, but look out for a lot of communication around these meaningful benefits. So now we looked at products that contain almonds, and then we wanted to see what was happening there. So we've seen a 60% growth rate of food and beverage products with almonds with a plant-based claim. So plant-based is, I don't think I've ever seen a trend move as fast in my more than 25 years of experience. So absolutely huge. People are really, really interested. So since 2015, we've seen it just increase, and it will continue to increase. And I think the examples that we picked here are interesting because they cover so many categories. That plant-based is not just about dairy alternative beverages or just about meat products. Now you can see here on this slide, we have creamers, we have a plant-based snack drink, a bar that contains plant protein, and smoked almonds. So again, we have a wide range of categories, but also flavors and tastes and different types of positionings. We dug in a little deeper and looked at some of the different, we call them positioning claims. So we looked comparing 2015 to 2019, and where we see the real growth when it comes to almond products with almonds in them. There's a big increase in vegan claims and a big increase in high or source of protein claims. So vegan very much related to plant-based, of course, and protein just goes on and on and on. There's still a lot of interest in that. And if we look at the fastest growing health claim, even it's not the biggest, but growing from a smaller base, is probiotic. We've seen a 45% average annual growth rate since 2015 for products with almonds that are probiotic. And here we have a couple of examples. So there's probiotic cereals, but also a big thing that is happening now is if we look into the plant-based dairy products or dairy alternative products, they're now becoming a lot more like their dairy-based cousins, sisters, friends. And this is a plant-based yogurt that also contains vegan cultures and probiotics. So look out for a lot more products like this as well. And then I mentioned the importance of indulgence. So COVID is definitely amplifying this trend. And we see, especially in Europe and the US, that consumers are looking for a lot more health, but there's also an increase in the consumption of indulgent foods. Because again, as I mentioned, people are looking for a bit of release and comfort through these very uncertain times. So we picked out a couple of examples of things that we're seeing. So one is an enhanced texture experience. So here's some 2-layered protein bars, and they offer all the textures of creamy, crunchy, and chewy. So that appeals to a lot of consumers. And here's a white chocolate spread that contains 15% almonds. So unique, different types of texture experiences there also through the almonds. And then looking at new flavors. So here's an almond and apricot bar that has a hint of ginger, just to make it a little bit, to enhance the sweet and nutty flavor in the bar. So there's lots of claims about that bar as well, that it's unique and different. It does look really interesting. And here's some cookies that contain cheese and chocolate. So that's also very different and really interesting, an interesting flavor combination. So for the last week, I've been talking about our top 10 trends, and this whole idea of mindful consumption, but also storytelling to connect with consumers is really, really important. I think also now food has really become our entertainment. We're all learning new ways to, pick up food, order food. There's been a lot of changes. So manufacturers really have to look for opportunities to connect with consumers in new ways, in different ways. And a lot of it is online or through apps or on the packaging. This is also part of, I was just talking about our transparency triumphs trend. And what we've seen over the past 10 years is that we started out with simple ingredients. I think kitchen cupboard ingredients was the first thing I ever heard it described. And I can remember it was in 2006 because I was in London the first time I heard about it. And over that time, this is a trend that's grown and changed and developed. And now we're talking about, transparency across the supply chain, how things are manufactured, where the ingredients come from, what are those meaningful stories. 60% of consumers tell us that they are interested in learning more about where their food comes from and how it's made. And this is a fantastic example from Farmer Joe here. This is a product from Australia. And you can see it says this is really fancy muesli, and it's lovingly made in Byron Bay, Australia. So that's a perfect example of, to me, that connects indulgence, that it's very fancy. I expect that it has a lot of interesting flavors, but also that a lot of care has been gone into making that, which also implies that there is nice choice of ingredients and the selection. I bet it also probably has some sustainability claims somewhere on that package as well. But that's a great example. And again, I mentioned how fast we saw the environment move up on consumers' interest in their needs. But here you can see really clear, 75% of global consumers say, I expect companies to invest in sustainability. And again, then you have to find a meaningful way to talk about that with your consumers. So here's an example from Waitrose. This is part of the Dutchy Organics range that's made by Prince Charles's Trust. And you can see there's a claim right on the front that helps farmers to develop more sustainable farming practices. And then I have a couple of examples where the products are using sustainable ingredients. So the Barney butter contains sustainable palm oil, and the chocolate contains sustainable, social, and ethical chocolate. So I think this has been a really quick, nice, short introduction into what we see happening in terms of products meeting consumers' needs. So that's it from me, and now I'm going to turn it over to Emily Lafferty at Simple Mills.
Thanks, Luann, and thank you to the Almond Board of California for providing the opportunity to share more on Simple Mills and how we are innovating with almonds to satisfy today's consumer. First, I'd like to share more on our history. Caitlin Smith founded Simple Mills in 2012 on a mission to enrich lives and bodies through simple, delicious, real foods. It all started when she was working a job that required her to travel and work long hours on the road. She was eating a lot of processed food for convenience and wasn't feeling great physically or mentally. When she cleaned up her diet, she realized just how much the food we eat transforms the way we feel. After experimenting in her kitchen with nutrient-dense ingredients such as almonds, and after about 90 recipes, she launched our first 3 almond flour muffin mixes in May 2013. We've since expanded our baking mix products, along with introducing ready-to-eat cookies, crackers, and bars. Our crackers and baking mixes remain the #1 largest brand in the natural retailer channel, and our products can now be found in over 20,000 stores in North America. We have a growing team of 70 employees, and we hope to transform the center aisles of the grocery store and give people access to better food, more nutritious food that they'll love. As we think about satisfying today's consumer, we know the demand for whole food nutrition in convenient formats continues to increase. We heard from Luann earlier on the demand for clean label, nutritious products, and here sharing additional highlights that demonstrate demand in categories such as natural and organic, plant-based, and at-home baking. Certainly, COVID has shifted eating habits as many people continue to work from home, only amplifying these trends. Simple Mills products, just under 40 products in total, all contain whole food ingredients, and many of our top sellers prominently feature almonds. Here's a snapshot of some of our products: sea salt crackers, chocolate chip soft baked cookies, and pizza dough, all featuring almond flour in the description of the product and on the front of our packaging. On the right here are side panels of our almond flour brownie packaging, which prominently features almond flour as the #1 ingredient on our easy to read ingredient deck. We have found recognizable ingredients to be the #1 factor in purchase intent for both our cracker and cookie products. We consistently cue appetite and nutrition with almonds and launched 2 new seasonal SKUs this fall: apple cinnamon muffin and pumpkin pancake and waffle, both featuring almond flour. I'd also like to acknowledge processors who are critical in bringing innovation to the industry through novel almond ingredient offerings. Key will be continued investment in almond ingredient innovation and processing to drive almond use diversification and net growth of the industry. Simple Mills primarily uses almond flour among other almond ingredients. In the last couple years alone, we've observed and our research and development team has experimented with offerings such as almond protein, very fine almond powder, and differentiated almond butters. Along with the previously discussed trends, we know consumers increasingly want more sustainable products. A study conducted by NYU demonstrated just that. You can see here sustainability marketed products account for 16% of the overall market, but outpace net market demand in providing 54% of the growth. They also grew around 7 times faster than conventionally marketed products and about 4 times than the overall CPG market. So how do we continue addressing ecological concerns and increasingly satisfying today's consumer? You, as growers, are key in leading this agricultural transformation from an extractive to a restorative model. Simple Mills believes the solution is through regenerative agriculture, which, as we define it, employs principles and practices designed to improve soil health, increase biodiversity, protect watersheds, and empower farming communities. It's about healing our relationship with the land and acknowledging indigenous wisdom. The outcomes we strive to advance through our products and ingredient sourcing, partnerships, and team ownership are improving soil health, increasing biodiversity, and empowering farming communities. Measuring outcomes is critical to widespread adoption, proving out economic and ecological benefits. Recognize agronomic principles that support these outcomes include keeping the ground covered, animal and plant diversity, minimizing disturbance, both chemical and physical, maintaining a living root in the ground, and integration of livestock. The context of place is incredibly important here. We understand what practices work on a dry farmed row crop system in the Midwest can differ from successful practices in growing almonds in California. And we know these established principles and a system's unique practices that fall into them can generate restorative outcomes, including climate and market resiliencies. So what are example practices that are being employed today? Where can increased practice adoption lead to widespread positive impact and satisfy today's consumer? Here's a summary of the definition of each of Simple Mills' desired outcomes, what potential practices could be employed to achieve impact within each, how they align to the Almond Board's 2025 sustainability goals, and examples of progress, your progress for each. Soil health is the continued capacity for soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. Potential practices improving soil health include, but are not limited to, cover crops, whole orchard recycling, and use of manure, compost, biochar. There is alignment between outcomes and soil health with the Almond Board's 2025 sustainability goal of improving water efficiency, further reducing the water needed to grow almonds. I'd like to highlight industry and grower achievements here, including CAS participation on 22% of productive almond land, a study finding that 675,000 almond acres were suitable for groundwater recharge, 53% of CAS respondents citing allowing native covers to thrive, and the Almond Board funding in-orchard plantings research and establishing cover crop best management practices, which you'll hear more about in this conference. As many of you know, biodiversity is the variety of plant and animal life in the world. This includes genetic, species, and ecosystem variety. Potential practices for fostering biodiversity include, but are not limited to, cover crops, hedgerows, and riparian buffers. As with soil health, biodiversity can lead to improved water efficiency as cover crops reduce soil compaction and improve water holding capacity. In addition, it aligns with the Almond Board's goals of reduced pest pressures as biodiversity boosts ecosystem resilience and can control pests and disease through the introduction of beneficial insects and increased microbiological diversity in the soil. And a kudos to you as growers who have demonstrated participation. For example, since 2013, almond farmers have planted over 25,000 football fields worth of bee pastures through Project Apis M's Seeds for Bees program. The established use of bee best management practices used today, and the Almond Board funding research addressing the 5 factors impacting honeybee health. Empowered farming communities thrive economically, care for each other, and for the land. Example practices here include those that ultimately lead to the reduced necessity for inputs, resulting in reduced operating costs, along with opportunities for higher valuation of almonds, including certification premiums. Alignment between outcomes and empowered farming communities and industry goals again include water, along with reducing dust and improving air quality during harvest, and achieving zero waste in orchards through identifying higher value streams for almond co-products. Almond Board progress in co-product streams and third-party funded research demonstrating promising outcomes for increased profitability through regenerative agriculture practice adoption, which includes marketing opportunities and reduced chemical and water inputs, are both examples of progress. In summary, practices and principles leading to these outcomes, which are in alignment with industry sustainability goals, can provide benefits to you and your system. Benefits including water efficacy, boosting biodiversity and pollinator health, reduced pest and disease pressures, and reduced need for inputs. The journey is just beginning, and we can partner together to advance regenerative agriculture and almond production in California. Looking ahead, Simple Mills products will be increasingly designed to advance our regenerative agriculture journey and to meet consumer demands. We will activate this work through sourcing transparency, including enhancing our sourcing focus on where almonds come from and how they are grown, which is increasingly important to our consumers. We're also doing this through direct trade partnerships with producers, decommoditizing the value chain and improving our connection point to the farm. In 2020, we piloted 385 acres of oilseed production in the Midwest, directly contracting with farmers to de-risk and provide incentives for regenerative agriculture practice adoption. We will increasingly focus on targeted measurements, measuring proof points and highlighting standards celebrating practices and outcomes related to pollinators, chemical inputs, and soil health. Using evidence-based tools to ensure credibility and be inclusive to all growers who are at various points along their sustainability journey. And leverage credible certifications with tangible benefits, certifications such as pollinator partnerships, bee-friendly farming. In the future, we see almond-containing products highlighting specific orchard practices, celebrating the practices and outcomes addressing ecological risks. These could include pollinator-friendly practices, such as hedgerow habitats, increasing water efficacy through precision irrigation and cover crops, and reduced inputs and the avoidance of chemical inputs that threaten bee populations. Also incredibly important is supporting research, bringing together farmers, scientists, and brands to test and popularize restorative orchard management practices. We all must partner together to advance these economic and ecological impacts in satisfying today's increasingly conscious consumer. So that was a lot of information, and this work is really important to us. Thank you, growers, for being here today and helping to provide our consumers with great tasting whole food products. Now turning it over to Sean Hauser-Fedor from Hershey's.
Thank you, Emily, and good morning, everyone. I'm joining you today from Hershey, Pennsylvania. I first want to give a special thank you to the Almond Board of California for this wonderful opportunity to share with you how Hershey is partnering with the almond industry and developing new innovative products to delight our consumers. Hershey is my hometown, and I couldn't be more excited to share with you what I've had the pleasure of enjoying my entire life. What I'd like you to take away from today's presentation are 4 key messages. Hershey is evolving its product portfolio from confections to the broader snacking category and has been partnering with the almond industry for over 100 years. Hershey is committed to responsibility and is reducing our environmental impact internally and looking externally at our value chain and suppliers to support our goal to minimize greenhouse gases. Almonds continue to play an important role in snacking, with Hershey's consumers preferring whole almonds. You'll get to hear a bit more about each one of these as we go on. The Hershey Company was founded by Milton Hershey in 1894. Milton was a serial entrepreneur who had many failed attempts in the candy and snacks business until he struck it big. When he discovered a chocolate as a delicacy, only available to the wealthy, he took a big risk and built a chocolate factory in the middle of the dairy farms to access fresh milk from the fields right here in central Pennsylvania. He would be the first to make an affordable and accessible chocolate bar to all the masses. Very quickly, this treat became part of the special moments in the lives of people across the country. For Milton, running a business was more than just successful sales. He believed in social commerce, doing well by doing good. While he built the company sustainably, building relationships with farmers and suppliers and recycling waste from the plants, there are 2 standout investments in the building of the business that I want to share in more detail. First, the Hershey Community, the area where I grew up. Hershey envisioned a bright, vibrant community around this factory that he founded in 1903. He built this model town for his employees that included comfortable homes, inexpensive transportation, and wonderful recreational cultural opportunities, as well as a quality public school system. In addition, number 2, Milton and his wife Catherine were unable to have children of their own. So they built the Hershey Industrial School in 1909. Originally for orphan boys, today the school serves over 2,000 disadvantaged youth of both genders as the Milton Hershey School. In 1918, nearly 3 decades before his passing, Milton placed his entire fortune in a trust fund for the benefit of the school in perpetuity. The children receive education, housing, clothing, and medical care, and are thriving as the direct beneficiaries of the Hershey Company's success. So why we exist? We exist to make more moments of goodness for the world. It is our purpose, and this is a mosaic of how we come together around this purpose. These moments shared with our brands are made possible by more than 16,000 employees around the world who share this deep-rooted purpose in doing well by doing good. We care deeply about engaging in our communities where we work and do business, and we're proud of our ongoing support of the Milton Hershey School. We're also incredibly proud to have our first female CEO and equal gender representation across our entire workforce. For more than 125 years, Hershey has been a good steward of the environment. Hershey's consumers and our investors have also demanded that we take meaningful actions to reduce our climate impacts. Climate change is a risk to our overall business and is an imminent threat to Hershey's supply chain of key raw agricultural ingredients. In response, Hershey is committed to set ambitious greenhouse gas emission reduction goals in line with the requirements of the Science Based Targets Initiative. And our aim is to do our part to support the recommendations of the Paris Climate Agreement to hold temperature increases to below 2 degrees Celsius and address our challenges and future agricultural risks posed by climate change. These goals will cover emissions from our entire value chain, accounting from the farm to the factory and to the product end of life. Roughly 73% of Hershey's greenhouse gas footprint are related to purchase of our ingredients. We are looking for ways to reduce our own environmental impact internally and looking externally at our supply chain and suppliers to help partner with us. Hershey has partnered with the almond industry, delivering many confections for almost 100 years. We're consistently bringing new chocolate and non-almond products to delight our consumers, starting in 1908 with our traditional Hershey's with Almond bar, and then Hershey Kisses with Almonds was brought to our consumers in 1990. Hershey also acquired the Heath brand in 1996, and most recently introduced Hershey's White and Almond bar in 2019. Today, with the strength of our core chocolate business, we are also excited about expanding our portfolio across the snack wheel. While we are deeply compassionate, we are fiercely competitive in the marketplace, pushing ourselves to be #1 in confection and driving to narrow the gap as the #2 player in all of snacking. We also have big ambitions with a goal of doubling our business over the next 10 years. Hershey's portfolio of almond products continues to grow and expand just beyond chocolate and almonds with new snack offerings from Hershey's Kit Kat snack mixes and newer brands such as Bark Thins, Brookside, Oat Mega, and One Nutrition bars. Our decision to focus on emerging brands with the Amplify acquisition enables us to bring together the best of the big scale of Hershey with the best of the small, nimble ways of working that we find with smaller brands and companies, as Emily discussed. At the end of the day, we are one Hershey, unlocking new value for our suppliers, customers, and shareholders. Consumers are at the center of all of our innovation, and as noted by Luann in the previous presentation, consumers eat almonds for many reasons. We find that our consumers eat almonds with our confections and snacks for their wholesomeness, protein, and healthy benefits combined with our delicious and indulgent chocolate. So what do consumers say about almonds? We talk to consumers nearly every day and throughout the life cycle of our development of new and existing products. Here's what they are saying to us about the products. For over 100 years, Hershey Almonds bars had whole almonds in them. In 2016, we thought we would try something new to increase our almond bar consumption by adding chopped almonds so we could claim an almond in every bite. As you can see, in 2016, we had significantly increased our consumer complaints, and they told us they wanted whole almonds back. So, in 2018, we brought whole almonds back to our product. Consumers not only contacted us directly to tell us they wanted whole almonds back, but they talked with their wallets. With the replacement of whole almonds back into our Hershey Almond bar, we saw a huge lift in sales, up almost 25%. I wanted to share a few quotes with you from the consumers. I am so happy you brought back the whole almond Hershey bar. It has been my favorite for 40 years. And another consumer said, absolute best candy bar ever. It reminded me of the good old days when things were made with the best ingredients available. So when we developed the white with almond bar, we tested the bar with consumers, and 65% of them said they would definitely buy it, and they told us they wanted the whole almonds and preferred 9 to 10 in each of the bars. When we recently consumer tested and talked to over 2,000 consumers about their perspective on almonds and chocolate, they said 69% of the consumers told us they'd like the pairing of almonds and chocolate together in comparison to other combinations of ingredients with chocolate. In fact, almonds and chocolate rank number 4 in all combinations with chocolate versus other inclusions. What makes these combinations so wonderful? Told us it's the crunchiness is incomparable and a major delighter. It complements and enhances the chocolate flavor without overpowering it. And it's a better size for a mix-in ingredient compared to many other nuts, like pecans or walnuts. Finally, when we asked about forms of almonds in chocolate candy, many of them told us they love whole almonds. They feel like they have a better mouthfeel, a better crunch. So now, I will let you hear directly from our consumers.
Really satisfying to bite into a whole almond and to eat that and to taste it that way. When it's all chopped up, you can still sort of taste it, but it's less of an experience. It's more sort of just like, I don't know. The taste isn't as prominent, and it's better when they're whole.
If you chop almonds down fine enough, you could take 3 of them and chop them down fine, and that's enough, like, for a whole, candy bar. But with whole almonds, oh my gosh, you get more. You get more nuts. The ratio is better. It's just better. And not to say that I wouldn't, eat something with chopped almonds, but at that point, it almost feels cheap. It doesn't feel as luxurious. It doesn't feel as complete. It just doesn't feel as pleasurable.
But to me, for some reason, it just feels like I'm getting more from the actual, more almond out of it when it's an actual whole almond rather than little pieces of it spread throughout.
I prefer a better, crunch experience compared to a half a crunch. You know what I'm saying?
So when I think of almonds and chocolate, I definitely want whole almonds. It takes center stage once you hit it, with your mouth. And when there's chopped up almonds, it does get a little bit lost in the mix, and I feel that the chocolate is always the overriding note.
Like, I eat a lot of Hershey Kisses with almonds and like the Hershey bar with almonds, and I think those are whole almonds for the most part. They're not chopped. So to me, I think it's more filling, and I think it's just a better experience to eat.
Wow. Aren't our Hershey consumers the best? We hope you are one of them. How can you in the almond industry continue to support Milton Hershey's legacy? You can partner with us by considering growing more small almonds to fit into our confections and snacks. And we want your support to enable sustainable almond growing and handling practices. In the challenging world we're all living in with COVID, let's bring more moments of goodness together to the world. Thank you. Now I will hand this over to Harbinder for questions.
Hi. So I just want to say a big thank you to you, Emily, Luann, and Sean, for presenting at the 2020 Almond Conference. I think everyone will agree, based on your presentations, that it's a really inspiring and exciting time in the almond industry. We have time for some questions, so I am going to start fielding them to you and then hand it over to you. So first of all, let's start with Luann. Luann, can you speak more to the affordable premium trend and what that means for almonds?
Okay, well, I think we just had a great example of that listening to Hershey. that consumers told us that they feel the whole almonds give a premium experience. I think that maybe another way to think about this is sometimes I give my mother as an example. She grew up on a farm, and she would say we would have to grow our own snacks. And I think now anything that is from a farm that's a real ingredient is seen as very premium as well. So I think we've seen a big shift in 25 years between what maybe we used to consider premium and now what is considered premium is definitely simplicity, what's clean label, what brings a health benefit. And when we just heard from the Hershey consumers, also just the fact that it's a whole almond also means premium indulgence. So looking at the quality of those ingredients and the benefits that they bring, I think really kind of sums up what premium indulgence means today.
Great. So we have another question coming in here and changing subject a little bit here, Luann. So what consumer COVID trends do we expect to continue as we emerge from COVID? And which do we expect to reverse back to prior behavior?
So this is my second panel today, so I can provide some insights that I also discussed earlier today. I think farmers are going to become hugely important, and farming practices are going to definitely be something that consumers think about a lot more. Everyone is reflecting on health, reflecting on immunity and what that means. I think also we've all figured out that food has become entertainment for all of us. It was before. I think that's been amplified by COVID. I think some of that will stick. I think a lot of consumers have learned how to cook. They've learned how to enjoy food in a different way. So I think that's something that will stick a bit. And then I think a lot of other things are going to go back to normal. I had a conversation with a colleague today saying that at the beginning of lockdown, everyone was, if you took a walk, everyone was talking and saying hello. I think some of those behaviors will go back, but I think health is going to stay top of mind. And I think our relationship with food, it will probably change a bit, I predict. And I think farmers are definitely going to be a star of the future because we're all going to be reflecting a lot more about what we eat and where it comes from.
Great. Thank you, Luann. Okay, so changing subject a little bit and moving to Emily at Simple Mills. So Emily, this is a question that came in from Tracy Han. She says, thanks for the presentation and great products. What could processors do that would help Simple Mills, such as traceability? What sets apart one processor from another beyond price?
Yeah. Processors are certainly key in our connection point back to the farm as a brand through them. Where status quo for a processor is, food safety and kind of these things that we've conventionally cared about, but we're increasingly interested and invested in thinking about the benefits that processors are giving back to the growers, whether they're vertically integrated or not. Those could include, agronomic training, unique marketing opportunities. And would also say, processors, and you made a nod to this in the presentation, increasingly bringing unique, innovative almond ingredients to market. We're thinking about that when we're partnering with processors, as we think about cutting edge products that we want to bring to our consumers, what processors can we partner with that ultimately offer those almond ingredients?
Okay. And we have here from Doug Peckinpah. It says here, how is Simple Mills highlighting its commitment to restorative agriculture so that its consumers are aware of this aspect of its business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we're just starting our journey. So we have a lot of things in the pipeline as far as marketing and bringing that information to consumers through multiple channels. So through our website, through social, and we're even considering, where it makes sense to have on-pack messaging to really get that message across to the consumer. This term regenerative agriculture and the concept has been around for thousands of years, and in terms of having a positive relationship with the land, but making the consumers more familiar with these restorative practices and ultimately the stewards of the land being the growers, we feel like really is one of our key responsibilities in the value chain. So more to come there for sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now moving to Sean. So Sean, I have a question here from Jose Vale. Has the introduction of new almond products at Hershey increased in the last couple of years?
Yes, absolutely, it has. You can see, as we talked about, our traditional Hershey with almond bar and our kisses, they continue to grow, along with our new introduction of the white almond bar. But as we have expanded our portfolio, we can see the use of almonds in a variety of new products that we've acquired, from our one brand that uses a lot of almonds within the and leverages the protein for those bars. We also have the bark thins that use the almonds. So we've seen an increase not only in our portfolio, our usage, our volume, but also with consumers. As Luann had talked about, with COVID, people are what we call cocooning and spending a lot of time experimenting with food and trying new products. So we've seen an increase overall, across the board.
Okay, so you mentioned expanding the Hershey portfolio across the snack wheel. Can you speak more to what that means?
Sure. So the Hershey Company is traditionally known for confectionery products. So us for our chocolate, us for our Reese cups. But as we've expanded, we really want to become this innovative snacking powerhouse. So as we think about all the times of day where people and consumers snack, from early morning through late in the evening, and across all of the various different categories of snacks, we want to make sure that we are offering a portfolio and options for each of those occasions for every consumer. So as you look at our expansion, we've expanded into protein bars, we've expanded into salty snacks, oat mega with some offerings in the morning, and recently we're launching a new product called Reese's Snack Cakes, which is something that you might snack on in the morning. So we want to be there for our consumers every minute of every day when you want to pick up a fun snack.
That sounds exciting, and we'll look out for some of those products in our grocery aisles. There's just one, it's not a question, it's just a comment coming in from Laurie Coburn. So she says, thank you for your presentation, and we are so happy to hear the consumer feedback on their love for our almonds. So I think that's a great point to end today's session on. So I'd just like to say thank you again for being part of the 2020 Almond Conference. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, everybody.